coasts of Spain. Way up north near the province of Asturias, we've got this ideal beach on the Cantabrian Sea. Further west, in remote Galicia, we find the deserted Sisargas Islands, inhabited only by seabirds. Way down south is this sun-scorched village that makes its living off of fishing and its saltworks. There's a great diversity to be found along the Iberian coasts, where we can hear several different languages being spoken: Spanish, Basque, Galician, Catalan. A plethora of harbours where women marry sailors generation after generation along the shores of a nurturing sea, and where, in terms of architecture, the good rubs elbows with the ugly. Way down south, we find our starting point, Andalusia. Andalusia with its river and capital. Once we pass the arid Andalusian lands, we hit Seville, 120 kilometers inland, a port city at the heart of a 15th century empire. How many convoys of ships loaded with incalculable treasures dropped anchor here along the Guadalquivir River? La Plaza de España, Alcazar, the Giralda. Seville is replete with memories of victorious returns from America, the flamboyance of adventuresome sailors and the genius of shopkeepers. Seville, a seaside city? Here's a view that plants a doubt in our minds. But the meandering Guadalquivir points the way. We pause a few kilometers before the river's mouth. What are these floating on the water? They look a bit like the hats worn by the Guardia Civil in the days of Franco. They're nets, the Andalusian costume worn by fishing boats on the Guadalquivir. Still navigating between land and sea, we pass the San Fernando salt works that have been converted into fisheries for sea bass and gilthead. And already another city awaits us. Cadiz, Seville's baby sister. Behind the ramparts of the old town, dozens of towers jut up into the sky, the Torres Mirador. These unlit watchtowers were the lookout posts for ship owners who kept their eyes peeled for Spain's royal ships on their way to Seville as they returned from America. It's Sunday, and the beaches of Cadiz are jam-packed. Here, people live outdoors. This is the Andalusian coast. We discover it little by little. Here, we see the Trafalgar Lighthouse on the cape of the same name, where the Spanish fleet took a major beating by the English. And there, our eyes still turned eastwards, the final expanses along Spain's southern coast seemed deserted, but for a few bulls being raised beside the sea. And it's the same story up to Tarifa and Gibraltar, where the Atlantic and the Mediterranean meet up. We're at the southernmost point of continental Europe. Military base and fiscal paradise, Gibraltar is a geopolitical mystery. A British territory in the heart of Spain. The 30,000 inhabitants answer to London, not Madrid, who's dying to get her hands back on the rock. No luck. Opposite the rock, we have the Strait, one of the main entry points of illegal immigrants into Europe. and shimmering in the heat haze across the way, the Moroccan coast, Africa. 15 kilometers separate two different worlds with conflicting desires. Not a month goes by without a shipload of stowaways getting saved by the Spanish army, at best, or at worst, winding up shipwrecked. Here, like in the Canary Islands, thousands of Africans dream of crossing over to a better life in Europe. After the strait, we're still in Andalusia, an Andalusia given over to tourism, from Malaga to Marbella to Torremolinos. Guaranteed sun and beaches, and the shoreline disfigured by hotels as far as the eye can see. Undeveloped expanses are rare along the Spanish Mediterranean. We get the impression there's nothing but buildings and pools. Yet there's one exception, 200 kilometers east of Malaga, the region of Almeria. Not tourism, but agriculture is what's intensive here. The highest concentration of greenhouses in the world are found in this region. Tons of peppers, cucumbers and watermelon are grown here each year. In high season, 1,000 trucks leave daily heading for the north of Europe. In a dozen years, a second sea has sprung up next to the Mediterranean, a sea of plastic. Hundreds of illegal workers work themselves to the bone in the unbearable heat. Living conditions are poor, and they earn just a few euros per day. Beyond Almeria, we get a breath of fresh air near Cabo de Gata, a land that boasts unique plants and animals. This barren land is a natural park and has been designated a biosphere reserve by UNESCO. The Sierra de Gata region has the driest and hottest climate in all of continental Europe. And it's undoubtedly one of the last remaining protected areas along the Spanish Mediterranean coast. But for how long? One real estate project plans to house 500,000 people here within the next few years. Our heads are still spinning from the greenhouses in Almeria, we figured we'd seen it all, when Benidorm looms up alongside a national highway a few kilometers from Alicante. Thousands of apartments and hotels for thousands of pleasure seekers, a mega seaside resort town. Entire charters fly here filled with sun and heat-starved holidaymakers, for the most part from Northern Europe. That's what General Franco wanted, for tourism to become the main industry in this part of Spain. "30 years later, real estate promoter is still a solid career choice in Benidorm. We pass Valencia, a city that works so hard it was awarded the organization of a major event, the America's Cup. Valencia, at the center of an urban area counting 1.5 million people, with a coveted dynamic economy and quays that outshine other commercial harbors in the Mediterranean, where competition is stiff among major cities such as Marseille, Barcelona and Genoa. We head north. The long road to Catalonia seems tediously uniform, endless beaches and buildings. Off away from the big seaside hotels, the Peñíscola Peninsula breaks the monotony along the shore, like a piece of period furniture in a modern apartment. The pedestrian squares are decorated with red and gold flags, Spanish or Catalan. The Ebro Delta marks our entry into Catalonia. The Ebro is one of the most powerful rivers in Spain. Its huge delta is a natural park and home to thousands of migratory birds. All real estate and human activity is strictly controlled here, an oasis of peace and nature. 100 kilometers from the Ebro and its delta lies the Catalan capital, Barcelona. Sea, climate, an artistic bent, economic strength. Barcelona has it all. Some people think it's the ideal city. Okay, maybe, but without the pollution. This morning, we can barely make out the newly erected tower designed by French architect Jean Nouvel. Or the spires of the Sagrada Familia off in the background, an incredible cathedral with 12 bell towers that was begun back in 1882 and is still being built. Architect Gaudi is the man behind this profusion of decoration that's all but invisible from the ground. Perched in the middle of the Ramblas, wide avenues, Christopher Columbus observes the construction. He's dumbstruck as well. Along the waterfront, the Barceloneta Quarter is the stomping ground of sailors and dockers. Leaving the proud Catalan capital behind, we encounter again kilometre upon kilometre of beaches, roads, trains, resorts, ramblas, terraces, casinos and hotels, from Mataro to Lloret de Mar. We continue heading up towards the French border where the landscape grows quirky. Cliffs and peaks hide some pretty incredible villas. Little by little, we approach Cadaqués, Dali's timeless homeland. Cadaqués, like everywhere else, is better off-season. We move away over to an untamed coast near Cape Creus, where, at sunset, you can watch the light of the Lamparos, fishing boats, as they sail back and forth across the border. Off in the distance, over there, is France. Back to the map. Then it's a 600-kilometer leap over the Pyrenees to land on a different Spanish coast, along the Atlantic. We pass the Bidasoa River, beyond Hendaye and the French border, to arrive in Euskadi, Basque country. There's no coastal road here. Not hard to see why. We have the fleeting illusion of an unpopulated coastline. But once we pass the cliffs, from here to the Pyrenees, it's a whole different story. Urban, industrial, and bustling with activity. We're in Gipuzkoa, one of the 7 provinces in Basque country. There are words and slogans everywhere, and a certain flag flying proudly, the Ikurriña, the Basque flag. Here and there, ETA, 3 letters that tell us day-to-day life isn't always easy in this region. Not long ago, it was virtually a nation at war. Perched 150 meters above sea level, adorned with antennas and lightning rods, a statue of Christ reigns stately over the bay. Rio de Janeiro? No, Donostia, which is called San Sebastian in Spanish. 2 mountains flank the bay named La Concha for its shell-like shape. This is a city where life moves fast both day and night. At the beachside casino, in the bistros of the old town, and in the hippest techno clubs. Very chic and very modern, this Donostia San Sebastian. 2 names for the same city? For years, San Sebastian wasn't allowed to be called Donostia. Madrid's orders under Franco, who for years put a ban on the Basque language. After years of conflict, bombings and imprisonments, Basque is finally the national language in Euskadi, a province with genuine autonomous status. The ocean, mountains and cliffs continue their perpetual game of hide and seek all the way to Mutriku. There are beaches and inlets everywhere, tucked away out of sight from the highway. It's a surfer's paradise. We're now in Biscay, in a spot that incarnates the region. The peninsula of San Juan de Gaztelugatxe, with its church perched above the sea. 231 stairs to get to the top. It's a sacred spot for Basque fishermen and seafarers who've escaped shipwreck. Our minds are filled with thoughts of all the boats lost in the Atlantic when suddenly a giant cement monster looms up, a nuclear power plant. Built 20 years ago, the plant has never been used. Spanish authorities threw in the towel after an onslaught of anti-nuclear demonstrations. All that's left are the pylons and lines that have never been connected. These Basques sure know what they don't want. And they also know what they do. Bilbao. Where the old shipyard used to be stands a curious blossom with titanium scales like a fish. The Guggenheim Museum, a work of art in its own right. This unexpected and surrealistic structure is a monument to contemporary art. More and more visitors flock here each year from all over Europe. Bilbao in Basque, a real hotspot. Who'd have thought it? Who 10 years ago would have placed their bets on the economic reconversion of this city? 9 p.m. Night is falling in the Gulf of Biscay. Out at sea, anchovy fishermen prepare for an all-nighter. On land, the streets and bars are ready to bustle until all hours of the night. Conversations roam from this to that, from the Etatruce to football and bike racing. "12 hours later, a beautiful day begins with a paint job on the Santander Lighthouse. The Spanish coastlines are incredibly diverse. After the south with its Costa del Sols, Costa Blancas and Costa Bravas, here we have the Cantabrian coast that looks more like Ireland than the Spanish shores along the Mediterranean. In the background behind this monastery, the Picos de Europa, the Asturias mountain range with peaks reaching higher than 2,300 meters. When skies are clear, they're visible from a boat out on the water. San Vicente de la Baquera and its old town. Llanes with its harbour and breakwaters, like works of art. With all its inlets and cliffs, we're easily captivated by the spell of the Asturias coast. We can fully understand the panic of this mother whose scolding is as loud as the roaring surf 70 meters below. That's right, along a rugged Atlantic coastline, you mustn't let go of a steadying hand. On this cape, kids aren't the only ones to let the dizzying space go to their heads. A foretaste of Galicia. This particular Spain is free of artifice. It's not looking to seduce tour operators. It knows it's special. Like this rocky point, Cape Ortegal. This coastline has come under threat again and again. It's suffered many an oil spill, but has always managed to get back on its feet. Galicia. Over 3 years ago, after Spanish authorities had pussyfooted around for hours, a tired old tanker went down here. The Prestige, a name no one is about to forget. Kilometers of coastline blackened with oil, an economic world in ruins, fear of irreversible damage. Thousands of fishermen and shellfish gatherers saw their livelihoods disappear. Today, we take a good close look. Every trace of it seems to be gone. We think of all the volunteers who came to scour and scrub, only to start all over again with each new tide. In Malpica, the oil spill chapter has come to a close. The boats are back out to sea and the volunteers have gone home. It took 3 years for the mussels to regain their muscle, the trawls to start trawling again, and the quays to bustle once more. Life as usual in a Galician fishing port. In Arosa as well, life is back to normal in the Ria. Mussel farmers are back to their eucalyptus platforms called batias, odd-looking squares that float with hundreds of mussel-covered ropes dangling down in the water. In Arosa alone, there are almost 4,000 of these rafts that haul in thousands of tons of mollusks. Despite the Prestige disaster, Galicians are still the European champs in terms of mussel production. Mysterious Galicia. We head inland, feeling like we've stepped into a time machine when we spot the Orios, corn granaries from another era. We approach Murcia and its coast of death, so named for the record number of shipwrecks there. The Atlantic roars with unabashed freedom here. Each year, a pilgrimage is held at this church. Legend has it, if you can move one of the granite blocks balancing here, your soul will be saved. we're nearing the end of our journey. Cape Finisterre awaits us somewhere off in the west under the setting sun. One of Europe's remotest spots, a point of passage sailors seek through their binoculars, their stomachs in knots. Here we are. Apparently, the most hardy pilgrims who walk the trail to Santiago de Compostela keep on trekking all the way to here. And when the sun sinks low over the horizon into the sea, lovers come looking for the green ray. The green of hope and the infinite Atlantic stretching out over the entire horizon.